Hi everybody, it's Gia. Welcome to my channel, or if you're returning, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I would like to talk about my 2-year sober life update. So I made a video about my sober journey, I guess nearly 2 years ago. So I think I made that video when I was about 6 months into my sober journey. So it has now been pretty much to the day, I think, 2 years. That I've been sober, and I would just like to tell you about it and how I'm travelling with all that. Because when I made my first video about my sober journey, I was still quite new into it. I needed more time to try and figure out how to adapt to being sober in certain situations, and I needed that healing time as well for my body and my mind. So I'd like to talk to you today about my sober journey and how I'm going with it. Have there been any hiccups along the way? And what advice can I give to people who are sober curious and either want to limit their alcohol consumption or just completely cut it out? Because honestly, going sober for me has been probably one of the most transformative things I could have done for myself and my life. And it's just been a positive. Like when I think about drinking, I have trouble thinking of pros for drinking, and all I can think about are the cons. Like there's maybe like 1 or 2 pros that I can think of, and the rest is all just totally, at least for me, outweighed by all of the cons. So yes, I would like to talk about that. So 2 years, where do I start with this? So yeah, for an update for those who haven't seen that older video, at the end of February 2023. I went out on the town for my birthday, and when I was about halfway through that night, I realised that was going to be the last time I was going to go out and drink. It was a very strange experience for me, but it just felt like this is it, this is time. This is no longer serving me, and this is going to be the last time that I binge drink. So I will be totally transparent. There was a few incidences that I did have a couple of drinks in those 2 years, but I would like to explain and talk about what happened there and why I'd still consider myself to be a sober person. So I think the first one was about maybe 8 months after I'd originally quit drinking. So that was, I think, in October of 2023, and that was a Halloween party. And I said to myself, because I was still going out in the town at this point, but I was not drinking, so I was just going out and having water. And as you can imagine, going out on the town when you're sober is not fun, because it's not really meant to be a sober environment. So I was like, well, I'm doing well, and I don't think I'm going to have a problem if I have like a couple of drinks. I want to see if I can moderate my drinking. So at that point, I was like, not craving the alcohol, but I was wondering if I could moderate, which is something a lot of people do try to do, and a lot of people can do that successfully. So I wanted to see if I was one of them. So I went out and I managed to moderate myself to 3 drinks throughout that night. But what I'd noticed was it was harder for me to moderate, as that's more my personality, than it was for me to just not drink at all. So that was interesting to me, because I had the 3 drinks that night, and that was all I was going to have. And I kept to my limit and decided, around the time I'd finished my drinks, it must have been a little bit before midnight or around midnight that night of being out, I was like, well, it's wearing off. Like, I wasn't drunk, but there was like a very slight tipsy feeling, and as soon as that wore off, I was getting anxious. So I was going, well, I said I'd only have 3 drinks, and then my brain was like, well, have a 4th one, have a 5th one. I didn't, but my brain was kind of trying to tell me I should. So I noticed straight away that the anxiety of not having a drink in my hand after I'd been having a few drinks earlier in that night was a lot more, like, it was resonating in my head a lot more. So I was a lot more, it was more distressing in a way to have had a few drinks and then to stop than it was to just go out and not drink. Because it was already in my head of, oh, you've already had a couple of drinks, what's a couple more? So for me, as someone who is, like, once I start drinking, I have to keep going. I wanted to see if I could moderate, and while I could, it was harder for me to moderate than it was for me to just not drink at all. So that was something I'd learned about myself. So fast forward to December of 2023, around Christmas time, I wanted to see again. I'm like, maybe I'll just have like 1 drink. So I poured myself some gin. I got halfway through the glass, immediately felt like I was going to throw up, and like there was such a strong thing in my head at that point going, no, like everything in me was rejecting this alcohol. Like nothing in me wanted to drink this. Like I was kind of sipping it and just going, like it just felt revolting to me. So for the first time, like in the whole decade where I'd been drinking, I went to the sink and I just tipped the rest of the glass out. I was never someone to waste alcohol. I would never have done that. So for me, that was almost like a symbolic thing for me, I think, where I'd poured it out and I just went, nah. So for the next around a year, I guess, I was not drinking. I did not have a single drink. My boyfriend's birthday, because he's also someone who had quit drinking around the same time, pretty much the exact same time I had before we'd gotten together, without actually knowing we'd stopped at the same time. He's in a similar boat to me, where he's kind of going, he feels like by not drinking, he's kind of giving the alcohol more power over him by abstaining. So he's got an interesting take on it that way. So he's in his own process and his own journey where he wants to see how he goes, which his journey and his progress and how he sees alcohol and his relationship with alcohol is a different journey to mine. So I can't comment really on that. But in November of last year, so this is the first drink he'd had in nearly 2 years from him being sober. So we decided on his birthday we were going to have one drink each. We decided we were going to go down to the river and just have a nice day and just sit on the rocks, put our feet in the water and just have our one drink and see how we went. So we did that. For him it was a positive experience. For me, I was not. Like, as soon as I'd had a few sips of my cider, I went, this really is not for me. Like, it just felt like I was flogging a dead horse at that point. Like, it just felt like I was forcing something that I'm not. Like, this really weird sense of I'm not a drinker anymore. Like, this whole identity shift of this is not who I am. I don't enjoy this. Like, drinking the cider to me felt more negative than positive. Like, I didn't like the slightly tipsy feeling that it gave me, which back in the day that was what I loved. So like, I didn't feel good. I felt foggy in the head. I did not feel particularly happy with it. Like, I felt immediately like a little bit anxious. I felt a little bit not as in control of my not as in control of myself. Like, I obviously was. I just had the one, but like, it was such a subtle, but because I hadn't been drinking in so long, the really subtle difference between sober and slightly tipsy was so noticeable to me, and I didn't like it. It was really interesting. So I did finish the cider, but then after that, I just said to myself, I was like, I need to stop trying to moderate this thing that I don't actually have an interest in anymore. It just felt like I should, like me feeling the need for me to get drunk wasn't so much there anymore, which is what I used to crave, like the feeling of being out of control and like not responsible for anything. Like, that was what I'd craved. But just I was never a moderate drinker. Like, I never enjoyed just having a couple of drinks. So I don't know why I thought I was going to suddenly enjoy that when I never did originally, because it was always I needed to have multiple drinks and I needed to feel drunk, not just enjoy alcohol for the sake of it, because I don't enjoy the taste of alcohol in general. That's not something that I like. I don't drink for the taste. I'd always just drink for the feeling, how it would make me feel more confident and yeah, just more extroverted, I guess. But I realised that day that I was not, like, I didn't have the urge to drink. The only time I felt the urge to drink was during stress. So for me, stress is a trigger for me to drink. So for me, I've had to try to like limit my stress whenever possible and also be able to handle it in a more healthy way. So for me, like, I don't have a really nice day and go, wow, I want to drink after this. I've had such a good day. For me, it was, I've had a really stressful day. I would like something to take the edge off. So that for me is a trigger, and that for me is something that could put me back where I started, I think. So for me, while I could moderate it, I was getting nothing out of it. I was just I didn't enjoy just having a few drinks. I wasn't getting nothing out of that, and it was just more so just a negative for me. Because while I could do it, it had no positive impact on my life at all. Because the only time I wanted to drink was when I was stressed, or I just wanted to get blackout and not remember anything, and for me, I've got a very negative relationship with alcohol. Like, some people can just have a few and that's enough for them. They're just happy with that. But I've got quite an addictive personality, and I just had to keep going and going and going. I'm like, well, if this little bit can make me feel like this, imagine how great I'm going to feel after a shit ton of it. So that was my logic. So for me to try to dial it back and kind of go, well, no, I'm just going to have to realize that I'm someone who does not need alcohol. Like, I'm not someone who just drinks for the taste or likes to just have a couple after work or something. I'm not that kind of person. I used to just live for the weekends, and I'd just look forward to binge drinking all week. So that was a very negative time in my life for the whole decade, basically, where that was what I was looking forward to, which is sad. It's sad that, like, I felt that stressed and that upset that I had to drink away my troubles, basically. But everyone, particularly in Australian culture, everyone drinks. Like, everyone is so used to binge drinking culture here, it's insane. Like, you can't go anywhere where alcohol is not heavily featured. Like, it's basically the baseline for every Australian social event. It's everywhere. So if you're not drinking, you are weird. So since my boyfriend's birthday in November of last year, again, I have not drank. Every time I have tried to drink since deciding I wanted to quit, binge drinking has just felt so forced and so fake, and I've ended up being resentful that I've done it, like, in a weird way. Like, I'm not happy with myself. Like, I'm going, why did you do that? You didn't want to even do that. I guess it was just testing to see if I could just have a couple. So I think it is good to be able to see if you can moderate. But for me, there's nothing in that for me, like just moderating for the sake of moderating when I don't enjoy the thing. And it's a known carcinogen. It's sort of like, yeah, okay, you can moderate a poison, but what's the point? Would you not just otherwise completely indulge in the poison, or would you rather just completely abstain from the poison? That's kind of how I see things. I'm quite black and white. I don't really have that grey area that a lot of people have. So for me, it's sort of like, just because I can have a few, why would I if I don't particularly want to, and there's no actual benefit for me in that? So that's kind of where I was with that. And fast forward to just kind of stressful situations where everyone else is drinking around you. That one's a really hard one still. Like, not so much the like, being around people who are drinking does not make me want to drink necessarily, but it's kind of just the social situations where I would want to drink originally, like the stressful, people-heavy situations, because I'm introverted and I don't like being in fake social situations. I don't like small talk. I don't like fake people, and alcohol would sort of be able to buffer that in a way and kind of make you blend in and be able to have pointless conversations. But the more I thought about it, I'm just sort of like, well, these are the people I don't want to be around. Like, I'm just going to pick how long I spend with these people and then make my exit. So for things I don't particularly like going to work dinners and stuff like that, or being around people I don't enjoy being around, I just time my exit. I just kind of go, okay, I mentally psych myself up and go, all right, I need to be here for this set period of time, but after that, I give myself permission to just kind of leave. So I don't feel stuck in a situation because I have an out, and I think it's important to have an out if you're someone who is around people who are drinking and you're sober. If you're not wanting to be around them, you don't particularly like their company for whatever reason, or, because it's a stressful environment, and if you're someone who's triggered by stress and people around you drinking, yeah, it was the same with going to gigs and shows and stuff like that. So my partner was in a band at the time, and I was going to his shows. He was sober and I was sober, and we were the only sober people in the whole place, I'm pretty sure. So it was stressful because everyone around us was drinking, and it was just awkward. Like, I felt awkward. I couldn't really engage properly. I was kind of more withdrawn. When he was performing on stage, I was just sort of off to the side, just sort of watching. But like, it was uncomfortable, but it's also like, you need to sit with that discomfort too. And you need to know, like, you're not going to be in that situation forever. Like, you need to know it's a finite amount of time and you will be able to leave. You need to remind yourself that if you need to leave a situation, you can. Like, give yourself permission to. You don't need to just stick around and be in complete discomfort if it's really that stressful for you. Like, you don't need to put yourself through that just for social niceties. And I think that's something I had to learn. I had to realize I can't please everyone. And if my battery is drained and if this is causing a massive amount of stress for me and I feel the need to drink in a social situation because I'm not feeling comfortable, then I need to leave. Like, I need to value my sobriety over how somebody might perceive me, or someone's personal feelings about me going at an earlier time. Like, I'm not going to carry or shoulder that. I'm not responsible for people's opinions of me. Like, if I need to leave a social situation because I'm feeling very uncomfortable and, that might trigger a stress response for me to want to drink, then I need to remove myself. I need to value my sobriety and my mental health over how they might perceive that interaction. But at the end of the day, you need to put yourself first in these situations because other people are not going to look out for you. People are in it for themselves at the end of the day, unfortunately. And a lot of people do drink to cope with social anxiety. That's just how it is. So a lot of people, they will project their own insecurities onto you and be like, well, just have a drink. It's fine. You're not an alcoholic. You'll be right. Because they themselves have not done that work on themselves and they feel better if you drink. So it is kind of subconsciously tearing someone else down, whether they're aware of it or not. Kind of, what's that saying? Misery loves company. And that is so true when it comes to alcohol. People who are in that life and in that environment, of course they'll want you to drink because you're the odd one out, and you not drinking casts a blinding light on them and they feel insecure and it highlights their insecurities because they want to know why you're able to not drink but they're drinking. So it makes them uncomfortable. I've noticed that. It makes people uncomfortable if you're around them not drinking for some reason. Same with just dinners or work dinners or family dinners or things like that. They will feel uncomfortable for some reason that you're not drinking and they are. And it just makes it a tense, uncomfortable environment. So of course we have to put ourselves in situations sometimes where we're not 100% comfortable, and that's just life. But you do need to have an out for those things. You need to know, okay, I'm going to be here for this set period of time, but after that point, I'm going to excuse myself and leave. And that is okay. You need to be able to give yourself that permission to leave these situations when it's, threatening your sobriety, because that is so important that you need to know what your limit is and you need to have those boundaries in place, because people will try to put boundaries in place for you, but their boundaries are totally different to your boundaries. People will try to control your life if you don't have control of your own. People will try to implement their own ideas and their own philosophies and their own ideologies. And if you are susceptible to those things, you're just going to go along with the crowd because that's what they're doing and they want to drag you down with them at the end of the day. For people who are sober curious, or people who have just quit drinking recently, or just if you are trying to limit your alcohol consumption but not necessarily quit, I would like to give some advice and what's helped me. So yeah, obviously removing yourself from situations which you have no business being in, knowing your limits, knowing how long, particularly if you've got social anxiety, how long you can be in a social situation before it is going to start feeling like a big trigger and something that is going to set you off and cause you to spiral. Knowing it's okay to make people a little bit uncomfortable if you do need to leave something early. You don't need to give an explanation, you don't need to over-explain to people. I think knowing what your relationship with alcohol actually is and questioning it, like things can change over time. Like you may decide you want to quit drinking for a couple of months and then, have a couple after that point, and you might be able to moderate. Some people can, some people can't. It depends what you want your relationship with alcohol to be. If you're somebody who is trying to quit or limit your alcohol consumption, it's important to put things in place for where the alcohol used to be. This is the main thing I would say where people stuff up, is by taking alcohol out but putting nothing in the place of it. So not necessarily a vice or something, which a lot of people try to then go, well, I need a new vice to kind of replace this old vice. You need to just replace it with a healthy habit. And you know what? That dopamine for that is going to take a while to get to a good point where you might feel fulfilled by it, but you need to do it. Like, it's not going to be an easy thing, and you need to accept you're not going to get the same high from this new thing that you got originally from alcohol. Because alcohol is a chemical compound. It's designed to make you feel extremely good for a period of time and then extremely bad. Because it's not meant to be in your body in the first place. Your body is not designed to have alcohol in its system. Like, your body is trying to reject it the second you put it in there. And it's a known carcinogen, and it is a poison. And it will, you know, and it wants to kill you. That's just the reality of it. What you do with that information, if you choose to drink or you choose not to drink, that's totally up to you. It's your body and it's your life. But when people quit alcohol and they don't put something in its place, you're in for a world of trouble. I've seen it so many times where people will quit, there's nothing there, they'll have this freak out moment, and then they'll go straight back to drinking because they put nothing in place. But you need to accept the thing that you put in its place may not be giving you the same hit that you're used to originally. So you're not going to get the same buzz from, like, doing, I don't know, like, whatever. I think it's important to put a hobby in place or just something for the time period where you normally drink. So for me, I had to totally recenter my weekends, because my weekends were dedicated to, after I'd finished work on a Friday or a Saturday, I would be going out drinking and binge drinking. And I did that for a good decade. That to me was my routine. So you need to realize your routine is going to change, and you need to have things in place to keep busy during that change. And you need to be able to implement things that are going to stimulate your mind and your body. So things that really are helpful are physical exercise of some form or description. This is so useful. Like, you need a physical outlet. As soon as you've got those endorphins flowing and you are physically active, you will feel better. Like, I promise you, you are going to feel so much better almost immediately. Because it gives you this wholesome piece that your body is designed to produce. It's designed to produce these endorphins for physical activity. But yes, no, it is discipline at the end of the day too. Like, exercising for most people originally does not feel good. It does not. The thought of exercising for a lot of people is very unpleasant. It's if it was easy, everyone would be doing it all of the time. If it was fun, all of the time, everyone would be doing it. I'd say diet was another massive one for me. So I changed my diet around the exact same time that I stopped drinking. And that to me was so beneficial. It's easier to put things in place once the ball's already rolling. So when you quit alcohol, it's a good idea to put more things in place to keep that momentum going. So for me, I cut out sugar, I changed my diet, I started eating whole foods, cut out gluten, like all these things where I was like, this is not helping my body. I'm not feeling good the way I'm eating, and I want to feel good. At the end of the day, I want to feel good. I want to feel good in my skin, and I want to feel healthy. So diet changes, exercise, a massive one, which is completely missed a lot of the time, are things for your mental health. I'd say this is the one that's often not talked about as much, and it really should be, because when you quit something like alcohol, your mind is going to spiral as you try to create a new routine and a new interest in something. Because your brain is looking for things now. It's looking desperately to try to find something to fill that hole that's now there, because you've now taken out a big part of your life, of your social life, of, you know, that sort of a thing, and you need to put something in its place. Particularly if you're like a binge drinker on weekends and suddenly your weekends are freed up because you're not drinking anymore and it feels weird going out with your friends sober. So it's all these things you now need to reconsider, and it is an adjustment, and it's not going to be a quick process. It's going to be painful, it's going to be confronting, it's going to be challenging, but I can assure you it is so worth it once you get to the end of it. Like, once you have started those steps, the first month gets easier, the second month gets easier, the third, and so on, so forth, until you've hit the 2-year mark and you've gone, I don't regret cutting this out at all. I'm so glad that I did this. It's one of the things I'm most proud of is my sobriety now. I am so much happier because of it. Yes, social situations are still a bit awkward for me, and I still don't like them, but my coping mechanisms for dealing with them have gotten a lot better, as have my boundaries. So knowing what I can handle at a certain period of time and a certain point, and not pushing myself too far, knowing my limits with things, and having enough self-esteem and self-confidence in myself to be able to go, okay, enough is enough now, I need to exit the situation. And you need to put yourself first in a lot of these situations, and it makes people uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, you're the only person in charge of your sobriety. Other people won't do it for you. Other people will probably encourage you to do what they're doing and keep drinking. So you do need to be aware of that and realise that a lot of people in these situations don't have your best interests in mind. It's upsetting, it's confronting, but once you accept it, it's a lot easier to deal with, I'd say. But making sure you fill your days with things that are productive and meaningful for you. So things like something that's mentally stimulating, spiritually stimulating, something that's getting your juices flowing in some way and getting something that is feeling fulfilling and of purpose to you. So picking up old hobbies. Like for me, I was back at the start. I had no idea what my interests were, because my interests for a decade were just drinking, going out and drinking and acting like an idiot. So I had to then look at pretty much my entire 20s and kind of look and go, I don't know who I am. So you go through a massive identity crisis too, where you have to peel back all of these layers and all of this trauma, and it's awful. It's awful. But you will get through it, and you will come out the other side so much happier and a better person because of it. But for me, I'm still learning, but I've definitely gotten to a point where I'm figuring out who I am again. If you really don't know who you are, and you've spent so many years drinking, and that is your personality and your identity, to strip everything back to the bare basics and look at, what did I enjoy doing in my childhood? It sounds ridiculous, but children are authentic. What children like, they like. If you look back at what you enjoyed in childhood, maybe try picking up some of those things again, whether that's something like you loved reading as a kid, you loved exploring as a kid, you loved swimming, you loved nature, you loved animals, you loved horse riding, you loved arts and crafts, you loved making things. Like whatever it is, go back to that base point if you really don't know who you are, and start exploring some of those things again. Because I found that for me, when I went back to that baseline point, like I had a different energy about me, and I realised I actually still like a lot of these things that I liked when I was a child. And you can bring that into adulthood, and it's so fulfilling. Because it fulfilled you as a child, that's why you did it. That's why you liked it. So to think in adulthood, you're not going to like doing the things that made you feel complete and happy when you were younger, oftentimes is just not true. But we often neglect that childlike innocence to ourselves, and we kind of think we've outgrown that. I think adults need to be in touch with their inner child at all points. I think we always need to nurture that side of ourselves and to never let that innocence actually die. Like just being able to see the world again with wonderment and like intrigue and curiosity. I think we really need to be able to do that again. I guess another point would be, don't take what other people say so hard. Like don't take it on board, don't take it personally. A lot of people, when you tell them you're quitting drinking, will be confused. They might even be hurt. They might be angry. It's all these different emotions, because a lot of people feel when you are leaving drinking situations or social situations where drinking is the forefront, they take it as a rejection. So particularly if a lot of your social life and identity is tied up in the drinking culture, your friends in that world are going to be confused. They're going to feel rejected, possibly. They're going to feel hurt. They might feel like you're leaving them, you're abandoning them. It's a painful thing for a lot of people to experience. So it's good to have empathy towards them in that regard and realise, okay, they're just not at the same point you are, and that's okay. They may get there eventually, they may not. That's not your responsibility though. You know, if these are people you still want to have in your life, like, arrange to see them outside of that drinking atmosphere. They may be very uncomfortable with that originally, but over time, the people who are meant to be in your life will stay in your life, and the people who are not meant to be there will go. Unfortunately for me, I ended up losing like 90% of my friend group when I left drinking behind. But it also showed me who my actual friends were, and realised that 90% of these people were just fake friends for me, and they were not bringing anything positive really into my life. And I guess I wasn't really putting much into their lives either, because I was just drinking too. They were drinking, I was drinking. So realising as well, like, you're not stuck. You're in constant motion, you need to stay in motion, but realizing you will have new friendships in your life, you will have new experiences, and you will have a new life. Like, you need to remember that when the days get hard and you feel like giving up and starting drinking again, you need to be able to look at yourself and realize you need to welcome positive things into your life. Realizing, like, okay, maybe I lost 90% of my friend group. I still have a wonderful 10%, and I'm going to meet more people in my life who are positive for me. And you'll find people in different walks of life too. You'll find friends who are interested in more productive and like wholesome activities. Like for me, I've got hiking friends now. Like, you know, you go for a 15k walk, you just talk, and it's just lovely. It's just nice to have those people there. And you're having that social interaction while being physically fulfilled, mentally fulfilled, spiritually fulfilled, being in nature. Like, you're getting all of these dopamine hits, but they're a lot more long lasting. They're not little bursts of dopamine. It's a wholesome, beautiful, calm feeling. It's not this up and down that alcohol gives you. When you've found something that's actually fulfilling in your life, you feel this sense of calm. It's this sense of serenity, and it's this sense of purpose as well. You feel very fulfilled. It's a completely different feeling. But it's important to be able to then put yourself out there, find things that fulfill you, and be around people who actually lift you up and don't drag you down with them. So yes, those are a couple of points for people who are wanting to go sober or are sober curious, are sober, just refreshers, all that sort of a thing. While I'm not an insider into your life, and I don't know what your relationship with alcohol is or what you want it to be, I would like to strongly encourage you to consider going alcohol free, even for a little bit, just to see how you feel. Because for me, my clarity came back, my happiness came back, my anxiety lessened. I can deal with stress a lot better rather than just tipping alcohol on top of it and going, okay, I'm just going to see what happens. You learn different coping mechanisms. Like, it sounds impossible at the time, and I was freaking out. I was going, I don't know how to deal with stress. But you need to put things in place. You need to change your lifestyle, which is another thing a lot of people don't like to do originally. You need to realize this is a whole new chapter for you. You can't just keep jumping back to the same chapter, hoping that things are going to be different. It's not. They don't change, and you'll end up just repeating the same chapter over and over and over again. You need to make active change and active progress towards what you actually want to be doing and who you want to be as a person. And only you can do that. That's the thing. You can't convince someone who is not ready to give up alcohol. You can't do that. You cannot make that choice for them. They need to make that decision for themselves when they are good and ready. And I think that's something a lot of people don't like to hear, particularly if it is someone they love but at the end of the day, you are responsible for you and they are responsible for them. You can be there for people and you can strongly encourage them, but when they're ready, they're ready. And that will be their time that they decide to change. But yes, thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.